So when former Ram and Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson and Jeff Fisher clashed heads, and a lot of the people within the organization and fans were frustrated by it, do you feel like that played into this at all?
I think that opened the window. About 3 weeks ago, when the Dickerson stuff just came out. Well, the Rams were the Rams fans, especially Rams fans on the internet, were very vocal. The ones that had followed this team from St. Louis. I mean, there were some comments earlier in the year about the ownership looking at the Rams as kind of like an expansion team because this is the first time in LA, and they've got a new fan base they're courting, and it's kind of wiping the slate clean from St. Louis. But all the fans that had followed this team in St. Louis were unhappy with the results recently, and so there was a vocal group, but the moment they really start, the Dickerson stuff opened that window because it kind of drove a wedge to the fan base. And you're talking about a market now with the Chargers possibly coming up here, and they're going to be competing for fans. They're going to be competing for money. They have to sell PSLs, so there's a financial aspect of courting fans that's very important. And when you take the living legend, the number one living Los Angeles Rams player, and kind of pick a fight with him, I mean that opens up a whole new window. And that was this whole 3-week period of the Jeff Fisher era kind of coming apart began with that phone call to Eric Dickerson. That's my opinion. You have that rough week. You have the next week with Les Snead, some of those issues last week, and then the way that the team played on the field. I think Jeff Fisher went from being assured to coming back next year to really to being pushed out the door yesterday. And that's one of the things that Kevin Demoff yesterday said, the Rams chief. He said that it's really the last couple of weeks where provided a tipping point.
Yeah, so for all the reasons that you just explained there, Joe, as far as the ouster of Jeff Fisher, and you mentioned Les Snead, what does this all mean for the general manager?
Well, that's another situation where he looked pretty solid a couple of weeks ago, and then that whole thing with the Albert Breer's MMQB article last week, where they referred to the Rams front office as Rams Junior High, talking about the split in that partnership between Jeff Fisher and Les Snead. You kind of wonder, is Fisher going to be pushed out, and then Snead's going to be elevated to kind of the number one in that football brain trust? And that interesting, last week we got a rare opportunity to sit down for about 40 minutes with Les Snead. When we asked about 2017, he kept pushing the focus back to this year and how he doesn't feel like he's guaranteed next year. And then we gave Kevin Demoff an opportunity to give him a vote of confidence yesterday, and Kevin Demoff said that no one on this team is assured to be back in 2017, so he refused to give them to ensure that Snead will be back. So really, and then I think the big, not a lot of people will report this or notice this, but the Jeff Fisher show, the local radio, typical coaches show that you get on the local radio affiliate. Last week it was Les Snead filling in for Jeff Fisher because they had an issue with a conflict with the Lakers. This week it was supposed to be Les Snead again. And yesterday we just found out that it's been changed to Kevin Demoff. So
Wow.
I think that's kind of interesting. Maybe I don't think the decision's been made yet. I think it's going to depend on who they get in the coaching search. But I think Les Snead, just like Jeff Fisher in the last 3 weeks, has gone from kind of solidly back next year to probably on his way out. The interesting thing is you have to put the number one choice that they made, the number one decision they made in the offseason was Jared Goff. And Jared Goff in his first couple of games, even though they're 0-4 in those games, he hasn't been the bust that maybe some other people expected. So, I would, grade Snead pretty well with that decision so far. I don't know if it's going to be enough to save his job, though.